Pastoralism by Alison Gockel. Pastoralism was created by a Greek man named Hesiod in 750 BC. This movement involved poetry, as well as music, literature, and art that depicted rural images in the pastoral tradition that was common in Greek life. Following Hesiod, pastoralism can be traced to the Hellenistic period, where many poets would write idylls or short poems describing rural life. After the Hellenistic period, pastoralism became less popular, but it made a comeback in the Italian Renaissance. Ironically, the Italian poets were educated urban dwellers, the complete opposite of the Hellenistic shepherds that had started the movement. Their poems were filled with fantasies and misconceptions about the rural lifestyle. From there, pastoralism morphed into a critique on city life. Pastoral poems are still popular in contemporary society, both as a way to highlight natural images and to criticize city life. Notable poets of the pastoral movement. Hesiod was a Greek oral poet that founded the movement. Virgil was a Roman poet in 38 BCE that modeled his works after Hesiod's. Dante, Petrarch, and Boccaccio, followed by Bernardo Tasso and Luigi Tanzio, were some of the famous poets of the Italian Renaissance. They introduced the pastoral lyric, which was a shorter poem describing rural landscapes. Alexander Barclay was a 16th century poet in England. Michael Drayton was also a 16th century English poet. He wrote the famous poem, The Shepherd's Garland. Robert Herrick was an English pastoral poet that commonly wrote about the beautiful landscapes and the estates of wealthy families. Christopher Marlowe was one of the most famous pastoral poets. He wrote The Passionate Shepherd to His Love, one of the most well-known love poems in the English language. The Passionate Shepherd to His Love by Christopher Marlowe. Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove, that valleys grow, hills and fields, woods or steepy mountain yields. And we will sit upon the rocks, seeing the shepherds feed their flocks, by shallow rivers to whose falls melodious birds sing madrigals. And I will make thee beds of roses, and 1,000 fragrant posies, a cap of flowers and a kirtle, embroidered all with leaves of myrtle, a gown made of the finest wool, from which our pretty lambs we pull, fur-lined slippers for the cold, with buckles of the purest gold, a belt of straw and ivy buds, with coral clasps and amber studs. And if these pleasures may thee move, come live with me and be my love. The shepherd swains shall dance and swing, for thy delight each May morning. If these delights thy mind may move, then live with me and be my love. General overview. This poem is about a shepherd calling to his love to join him in a rural paradise. This poem displays the idealization of nature that is commonly seen in pastoral poems. The Passionate Shepherd to His Love was written in 1599, a time filled with strict religious rules. Pastoral poems allowed authors to express their romantic ideas as well as their anti-city sentiments without insulting the church, which you could get arrested for in 1599. The first stanza states the entire meaning of the poem in the first line. The shepherd wants the recipient to come live with him and be his love. He promises her pleasures that only nature can provide. One can see natural images of woods and steepy mountains in this stanza. The speaker is promising a life of leisure to his love, which many urban poets such as Marlowe thought rural workers enjoyed. The second stanza is also centered around natural imagery. It is a continuation of the first stanza. The rocks mentioned in this stanza could symbolize the jagged edges that can form in a relationship between a man and a woman that are not well acquainted before marriage, as was the case in many marriages in 1599. In the third stanza, the shepherd promises his love material possessions in addition to a beautiful home. It is important to note that all the things he promises her come from nature. The fourth stanza is again full of promises that the shepherd makes to his love. He promises her an absurd amount of things and an ideal life that could never come true. This could represent the facetious promises that many young men made to women in this time period. In the fifth stanza, the speaker reinforces both his promises to the listener and the main sentiment of the poem. He begins with and ends with the lines, "Come live with me and be my love." The sixth stanza elegantly wraps up the poem with images of spring. Spring represents new life, and in this case, new romance. Imagery and symbolism. The poem is centered around natural images and an idealized rural lifestyle. The shepherd's love could symbolize all young women because in 1599, when this poem was written, it was common for girls to marry men based on what material possession those men could offer them. The rural landscape represents freedom. To Marlowe, busy city life paled in comparison to the idealized rural lifestyle described in pastoral poems. Marlowe never fit into society, and he was eventually arrested for being atheist. The shepherd's calm, solitary life with little influence from the church would have appealed to him.